Fit check. Fit check. Well, I'm just casual Friday. Come on, look at me. Look at me. Casual Friday.
It's happening, fuck. I know. And it's not just happening to Cuba, it's happening to your boy too. This is literally something that they're working on. And they're gonna try to jam me up with this shit too. It's clear. Anyway, who is Hasan being mean to? He is such a douche. What? Dude, I love when guys, when people come in here and it's like so clear that you're just here to chirp. He's like, I didn't even know. I already have my mindset. I could possibly agree with what your take is. I didn't even hear it, but I heard like a goddamn animal. I half listened and I heard you get excited. The misquoting is the misquoting is because the broader context is not revealed in that conversation, okay? That's all it is. That's why it's like, it's not technically a misquote. It's just the broader context and how that will be received. If you don't think about that, when you're posting the descriptor, which is more important than the fucking clip itself, because nobody watches the clips. They only read, and even then they barely fucking read. Like that summarization is key. It's the most important element. It's the most important aspect of the clip on Twitter. And that's what a lot of my haters do. And I think Adri does a pretty good job. Doing this a month after Juneteenth is crazy. Like here's a great example. You want to know how shit gets clipped out of context? All right, we're done with the fucking Odyssey conversation. Okay, wait, hold on. Oops, that was the playlist, obviously. We're gonna get into situation monitoring in a second. But if you want to understand like how here's a great example of how like shit gets totally clipped out of context, or rather, the context itself or the video itself does not matter. It's totally secondary, right? Here. Everybody on Twitter has been losing their minds over this speech, okay? More. Everybody, Shannon Watts, DSA Watch, they're all like, this guy's wearing a mouse suit. This guy's so cringe. This guy's doing a Hitler-style speech. DSA Watch, which is a right-wing operation. Who knows what they're funded by? But basically, this is a right-wing guy from Arizona. I think he's like a real estate developer that's behind the account from Arizona. He's a Republican. And he posts this and says, it's run by a Dem. I thought it was run by was it a former Republican? I think he's a right-wing guy, though. It's very clear that he's a right-wing guy. I mean, DSA Watch is just like clearly a right-wing operation, and most likely a Hasbro operation as well. So, in any case, Hasan Piker delivers Hitler-style rant in Mao Zedong suit. No more. 9.6K likes. There is no greater indication that no one that was liking that shit actually listened to what I was saying. No more. Let's take a look at what I was actually saying, and you can make up your mind on whether or not this is a Hitler-style speech.
To Trumpism, but no more to the Democrats who compromise, who conciliate, and who betray us. No more to the fascist reactionaries, but no more to the Democrats who will collaborate and cooperate with the fascists, who will fund ICE, who will fund Israel, who will help poison the planet, who will stiff workers and help bosses. We don't need those Democrats anymore. In fact, we have a message. We are coming. We are unbossed, we're unbought, we're unbowed, and we will become undeniable. Thank you.
I mean, no notes. No notes. I think it's great. I think it's a great fucking speech. I will say, especially the end of it, the second half of it, like I get really fired up. I don't know what this would be considered. I don't know how this could be considered Hitlerian in any way, shape, or form. Love the speech, but not gonna lie, you sounded like Dwight Schrute when he gave that dictator speech. Guys, I don't know if you know this. Dwight Schrute is working in an office, okay? I am giving a political speech at a political event about politics. I'm not like a working at Scranton, Pennsylvania at a paper plant, okay? I'm giving a fucking political speech. I saw a lot of people that were like, oh, this is just like Dwight Schrute. It's like, yeah, the reason why Dwight Schrute is funny in that moment is because he's working for a paper plant where they make paper and stationaries. Okay? That's why it's silly. The juxtaposition of him delivering a Mussolini speech, what makes it funny is that juxtaposition. That's the joke. Americans only know Brian from Family Guy and Dwight from The Office. I know. American burger-brained Ameroids, unfortunately, can't comprehend it. Anyway, so More Pegasus is defending me now. More Pegasus fans, it's the new Hasan drama, even pushing back on Asmongold. I will push back a little bit. I don't think Destiny represents average people either. Nobody deserves any kind of IRL harassment. That's just lame. And I disavow it completely. Oh, shit. But anyway, we were talking about, like, I know we got sucked into a totally separate conversation, but yeah, I mean, that's a great example of how, like, that's a great example of how people just don't watch the clip, right? Shannon Watts did this too. Shannon Watts dressed like Mao and talking about how much he hates the majority of Democrats as an invited guest at college Dems, right? And she's been going extra hard. She's been going balls to the fucking wall, right? I love you to death, Hasan, but the mouse suit isn't it, man. I can see people being fearful, and it leans heavy into the Fox News cockers hit you with the communist stuff. Also, having the old heads believe them. Nice fitting suit, double-breasted, makes you look like someone old head morons love. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to stop wearing the Zhongshan suit. It's not the fucking Mao suit, okay? It's like, it's a Chinese suit. I like it. I'm not going to stop wearing it. I don't give a shit if people go, oh, there's the Mao suit. Who cares? Who cares? Yeah, its origination doesn't even come from Mao Zedong. Obviously, Mao Zedong popularized it quite a bit, but it's Sun Yat-sen who also wore it. And not only is it it's the Zhongshan suit that is like a Chinese style of like merging Eastern and Western aesthetics, but I also happen to get it tailored when I was in China by the fucking family that invented the suit style, invented that tailoring style. So, you know, it has, you know, not only does it look good, but I also like I like the story behind it as well. I don't give a shit. What's it called when you associate an Asian style of clothing with a specific Asian with the implication that it's bad? I mean, yeah, it's fucking racist. But it doesn't matter. It's the Nehru suit adapted to be more Western facing, along with some influence from Stalin Su's style. Yeah. Sorry, but the mouse suit rocks. Feels like it makes his head look small. I like the concept. Also, a true China Maxer would know that the suit was created by Sun Yat-sen. Yeah. Yeah, they're treating your suit like you put on a fucking Gundam to threaten the Empire. Yeah, the only thing that matters when you wear stuff like this is, does it look good or not? Okay? Does it look good or not? That's it. And if the answer is yes, it looks good, yes, is swagged, then who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Yeah, I again, ironically enough, I'm not a Maoist, but if they want to present me as one, who gives a shit? There was a really funny, it has created really funny discourse, though, I will say. In the short clip Watts provided, Piker says no more to those Democrats who will collaborate and cooperate with the fascists, and she saw this as an accurate description of everyone who is in DSA aligned. Yeah. But it was very, it is created, once again, very funny discourse, okay? The origin of the suit doesn't matter. Who made it famous matters. Same as you don't see anyone using the now called Hitler mustache. He didn't invent it, but he made it famous. Yeah, there's no comparison between Mao Zedong and Adolf Hitler, dumbass. That's the whole point. That's what I'm trying to get to right now, which is that if you were to make that comparison, you're a fucking idiot. And I know a lot of people in the Western world not only make that comparison, but then turn around and say Mao Zedong is far worse than Adolf Hitler. He killed far more people than Adolf Hitler. It's a fucking stupid argument. That's my point. That's like, you know, anyone who is at least a little bit knowledgeable about Chinese history will understand that there is plenty of criticism that is warranted of Mao Zedong, especially in his later life, but he's also a profoundly important historical figure for the entire planet and certainly for the PRC, People's Republic of China, modern China in general. That's my argument. That's my statement. And it's one that Shannon Watts, of course, without any sort of fucking interest in understanding Chinese history, has immediately turned around and said, whoa! Yeah, Hasan, please stop wearing the Mao suit. It scares libs and normies. Also, while you're at it, please stop pushing socialist policies. It scares people. And to calm the masses, please start preaching that better things are not possible. Yeah. Mao killed practically half my dad's paternal family, and I don't even blame him. They were landowning 1%ers. These people call Nancy Pelosi a communist who could wear anything and they cry about it. I mean, not these people. So they clipped something. They clipped me talking about Mao Zedong, and here is stopped by a cop who thought I was like making fun of Mao Zedong, which I never would and never will. Mao Zedong is a one of the great leaders of this world. Okay, a man who changed the entire universe, the entire planet. He did. He changed the trajectory of history. He did. He is the founding father of the People's Republic of China. And it's insane that these people, like Mao Zedong gets the same level of credit that the founding fathers do for America. Okay? That's it. Like it's literally the same thing as me saying George Washington is a great man of history and is a profoundly impactful, profoundly important person. The American Revolution is a progressive historical event overall, all things considered. And of course, they were also slavers, right? And the same, if you apply that same principle consistently to Mao Zedong, everybody in the fucking Western world loses their minds, where it's like, well, Mao Zedong, unlike George Washington, did not own slaves, okay? And as a matter of fact, did a lot of work to abolish the prior structures that resembled slavery and feudalism. But that's besides the point. Yes, there were tremendous excesses in the Cultural Revolution, the Five Pez campaign. There were a lot of failures that led to mass famine. Of course, there's no more mass famine since then, and China is credited with uplifting 800 million people and taking them out of extreme poverty. That's what the PRC did. And this is something that everybody understands and everybody acknowledges because it's true. And that would not have happened without Mao Zedong. It's that simple. Okay. For real, yes. I mean, there was a lot of fucking excesses, let's be real, but the People's Republic of China would not exist without Mao Zedong. I got stopped. Like that's anyway. I literally wrote my AP Lang exam essay about this exact same thing. All this is super cynical anyway. They're just like freaking the fuck out. It's like, don't worry, man. I don't want to destroy the sparrows. Okay, I don't want to kill all the sparrows. But yeah, ultimately, this is like, this is no different than when I said the fall, the dissolution of the USSR was a devastating event that had reverberations. It was like one of the, it was an event that was unbelievably traumatic for people who lived in Russia, people who lived in the Eastern Bloc countries as well. Like, it's just true. It's an objectively true statement. And for some strange reason, whenever people fucking hear that, they go, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're like, you want gulags. You are defending the excesses of the USSR. You're defending Stalin's like height of paranoia. No, I'm not. And the same goes for Mao Zedong. It's just a sequence of thought terminating counters. Okay? It's a sequence of thought terminating cliches to just be like, no, what the fuck? You can't have any objective analysis, which includes criticism as well, on foreign adversaries. These are historic foreign adversaries that now have contemporary. They're now contemporary foreign adversaries as well. You should not be interested in understanding their development, their evolution. You should instead just say they're Adolf Hitler, but worse. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to fucking do that. It's not my job. It's not something I'm interested in doing. I'm not trying to fucking win over. I'm not trying to win like a political campaign where people could just like fucking lie and use like short clips. You can defend the USSR a little, bro. I mean, of course, there are tremendous aspects of the USSR that are defensible and good. Like, for example, defeating the fucking Nazis. Okay? The issue is a lot of people don't want to look at where Tsarist Russia was and then where the USSR took Russia to and made it this industrialized nation in such a tremendously short period of time. That is never a part of the consideration. Now, of course, that used to be a part of the consideration. Ironically enough, there are plenty of conservative right-wing historians even back in the day that covered this stuff decently. But because we have unfortunately arrived at a world where literacy, critical thinking, nuanced thinking, objective thinking on these sorts of historical events is no longer rewarded or welcome, most people, even on the liberal side, engage in the same fucking mentality. Ideology transcends all. And the monoculture created, designed, and propped up by neoliberalism dictates that you must not engage in critical thinking. Okay? You must not do it. It's cultish. It's cultish in ways that are not that different from the Trumpian cult. Now, of course, the Trumpian cult is far worse, is far dumber. But like, I personally don't understand why people are not more interested, more curious, more intellectually honest, especially on the liberal side. Like, we're not supposed to be like Republicans, man. We're supposed to look at this stuff with a different perspective. Like, doesn't it bother you that like Shannon Watts is saying the exact same thing that Spencer Pratt is saying? Does that not ring any alarm bells in your mind? Mao had some excesses with low-key be one of the funniest takes if this guy wasn't dead serious and quickly becoming the gatekeeper for one of the two major political parties in America. Like, this is what I mean. You think like you arrived at a perfect understanding of my assessment off of a 36-second clip that literally is like half dead air anyway? But once again, Republicans and liberals are aligned on this issue. Does that not strike you as even a little bit odd? This moral grandstanding, this idea that I see you took off the mouse suit to avoid the allegations, but I also recognize the Israel Epstein suit. You dirty communist. You're not sneaky. Yeah. Israel Epstein, my goat, living the dream. So I always assume that like Republicans chirping about this shit would potentially cause some alarm among liberals who are advancing this position. But no, they're perfectly fine shaking hands with some of the most insane, some of the dumbest fascists of all time. Okay? Yeah, this is just as insane as calling Hitler a great leader, except Mao killed even more than the Nazis. Like, and this is a not so subtle way. This is a not so subtle way of straight up saying, like, you know, Hitler wasn't that bad in comparison to these dirty communists. Okay? That's what this is. This is, unironically, this is Holocaust revisionism. Okay? You can't, on the one hand, you can't, I mean, this was a deliberate attempt. You know how we have the Daughters of the Confederacy in this country that revised and whitewashed the Confederacy immediately after it ended? Nazis did the exact same thing. They created the double Holocaust theory, okay? A very common Holocaust revisionist theory. The idea that Stalin was just as bad as Adolf Hitler. As a matter of fact, Stalin killed more than Adolf Hitler, so maybe he was worse than Adolf Hitler. This was a deliberate attempt to revise the atrocity of the Holocaust, okay? So on the one hand, a lot of these guys who are pro-Israel will unironically engage in the exceptionalist nature of the Holocaust and say that it is a singular event. It is a singular event unlike anything else, and that's why no other genocide can come close. But then they literally will point to things that are not even in the same category, in the same camp whatsoever, and will claim that things that are not comparable to the Holocaust at all are actually just like the Holocaust. And this is never considered, even though academics look at this as Holocaust revisionism, double genocide theory. But because these guys are pro-Israel, they get away with it. Isn't that interesting to any of the liberals that Spencer Pratt agrees with you? That does not spark something in you at all. The clean Vermont myth was a big part of that too. I'm curious about your Mao point. Okay, we're moving past Mao Zedong. I'm not defending everything that Mao Zedong did. I'm actually fairly critical of the Cultural Revolution. I've talked about it quite a bit. Okay, you can go and find it in the archives if you want to. Okay, we're not killing all the pests. We're not killing all the pests. The rapid industrialization was a massive fucking failure. It was too decentralized. And a lot of people also died due to the mismanagement, due to the famine. These are all real historic events that people recognize. Like, it's fucking stupid not to. Even the Chinese government recognizes it. Okay. Anyway. What is this? Yeah, this is Matt Petty has a take on this as well, and we're gonna get to it in a second. But I have to pee. So I guess we'll start off with the Fox News.
But no more to the Democrats who compromise, who conciliate.
Yeah, Mao Zedong style speech. All this stuff. What is this? Dems Piker problem?
Compare that to the Democrats who are still trying and failing
Here, I gotta
to
pee.
crack the masculinity code. Their so-called Joe Rogan of the left, Hasan Piker, is back in the headlines, this time for calling Republicans terrorists.
Stark difference between even a Democrat who you and I might find not up to par, to say the least, versus Vance or whoever the they put up.
Of course. I mean, I hate Republicans. I oppose them. I say that all the time. I think that the Republicans are far more damaging. The biggest terrorists, the biggest domestic terrorists in this country, the biggest terrorist internationally is the Republican Party.
Disgraceful. But not all Democrats are sucking up to the America-hating streamer. Michigan Senator Elise Slotkin is firing back after Piker attacked her for daring to talk to Bill Maher, but not him. Watch.
I talked with Hasan Piker this week, and he essentially said that there was a double standard on you going on Bill Maher's show versus his Twitch stream. Do you want to respond to that?
Some derogatory things he said about Orthodox Jews, saying that we deserve 9/11. Like, there's some things in there. Not to mention, he calls me stupid like every other week. So what normal human being would choose to go on a show when someone calls you stupid every 10 days?
Yes, obviously. I'm not quite sure, Harold, why more mainstream media folks don't adopt her common sense approach. This guy's bad news.
I agree. I think that whenever on either side, Democrats or Republicans use language that I think is not becoming of a political conversation, I'm critical of. I think there's no way in the world, if I were Lisa Slack and I'd go on Mr. Piker's podcast, I wouldn't go on it if he invited me. Now, if I were in a setting and he was there to debate, I'd debate him, but I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of being on his platform. I think one of the worst.
Yeah, I'd be so satisfied if you came on my platform, big dog. I would love to have you on. Okay, that's one of my favorite. Dude, you work at Fox News, buddy. You work at Fox fucking News. What the hell are you talking about? Anyway, this video is old. This is from April. But the talking points have not changed. Okay? John Fetterman says if the Democrats don't disavow you, he will leave. It's getting there. It's getting there. We're going to talk about it. So anyway, yeah. Far left political influencer Hasan Piker sparked heated backlash over the weekend after addressing a group of college students wearing an outfit resembling the wardrobe of former communist dictator Mao Zedong. No more to Trumpism, but no more to the Democrats who compromise, who conciliate, who betray us, Piker said to applause at the 2026 College Democrats of America Summer Convention in a clip that was widely shared on social media, including by the account DSA Watch, which called the appearance a Hitler-style speech and was viewed over 1 million times. Parker continued, no more to the fascist reactionaries, but no more to the Democrats who will collaborate and cooperate with the fascists, who will fund ICE, who will fund Israel, who will help poison the planet, who will stiff workers and help bosses. The appearance, and specifically the Mao-style suit, generated instant outrage on social media. Hasan Piker dressed as Mao, brainwashing your kids at college. Former Los Angeles mayoral candidate and reality TV star Spencer Pratt posted on X, "They're communists. This was always communism." Pratt added, "Mao killed more people than Hitler. If Hasan Piker had dressed like a Nazi, we'd have an appropriate outrage." Would you? I think if I did that, you would love it. You would be defending me. Fox News would be defending me, actually. If I unironically dressed like Adolf Hitler and said Nazi-style things, I'm pretty sure I would just be a spokesperson for the Republican Party because Stephen Miller literally does that. Okay? Greg Bovino, Mr. Bovino, straight up openly dressed like a fucking Nazi, and y'all defended his ass on a daily basis. I guess I would be the head of ICE if I did that. So no, I don't believe this attitude. I don't believe this attitude at all. I think that's bullshit. This is a lie. We know it's a fucking lie. We can all agree that dressing up as Mao while preaching this faculty lounge cosplay communism is a little on the nose, right? GOP strategist Matt Whitlock said. Atlanta Council senior fellow Ahmed Fuad Al-Khatib. Okay? Ahmed Fuad Al-Khatib, Israel's greatest defender at the Atlantic Council, said the transformation of Hasan Piker is nearing completion. Dressed up as Chairman Mao, whom he called one of the great leaders of this world to change the entire universe, he and his followers are attempting a cultural takeover of the Democratic Party, which is letting them in. Serious issues aside, it remains funny to me the amount of costumery required to be a leftist in good standing. CNN political commentator Scott Jennings posted, yeah, he'd know a lot about costumes. Yeah. He's been in and out of closets many times, Scotty. A spokesperson for the pro-Israel watchdog Canary Mission told Fox News Digital that Piker is a malicious figure who has repeatedly faced criticism for rhetoric supporting terrorism, and that the decision to host him reflects the growing influence of socialist and extremist voices within the Democratic Party. Piker, who has previously expressed admiration for Mao Zedong, the Chinese Communist revolutionary whose policies historians estimate contributed to the deaths of tens of millions of people, responded to the DSA Watch post on X saying, no more to fascist Trumpism and no more to the Democrats who collaborate with fascists by funding ICE and Israel's a Hitler-style speech to you, ? Piker did not comment. Which they reached out for a comment. I did not comment, I guess. I didn't even see it, but I probably wouldn't anyway. Piker, backed by roughly 10 million followers across various internet platforms, has endorsed several far-left candidates across the country, including campaigning with Democrat Senate candidate Abdul Sayed in Michigan as the Democratic Party grapples with a socialist wave of candidates that have won elections across the country. What is this? Yeah. Libs and right-wingers are so fucking stupid. The number one actor and model in China, Zhang Linghe, also wears Zhongshan's regularly, unbuttoned even. Yeah. Yeah, it's a common garb. Not only is it common garb, but like they're saying like contextually, I'm wearing this because I am wearing it because I love Mao Zedong and I agree with everything he's ever done in his entire life. I personally don't have the same level of antagonism that the average American has towards the People's Republic of China. That is real, okay? There are plenty of criticisms. There are plenty of excesses, especially the older Mao got, the worse things got in terms of his governance, okay? Having said that, his contributions to history are vast, okay? It's true. 800 million people would not have gotten out of extreme poverty if it wasn't for Mao Zedong. Obviously, Deng Xiaoping played a major role in this as well, but it transformed China into what it is today. No reflection on that at all. Motherfuckers will call you a dangerous Hitlerian force and call you boring, performative woke like Brian Griffin in the same breath? Yes. At a certain point, I think people need to recognize. I mean, it's the same shit. These guys used to say I'm a hypocrite socialist grifter who's really rich, doesn't do anything, just sits at home. And that was never obviously the case. However, now they're like, oh, he's a dangerous terrorist that the federal government must fucking depose and throw into jail, throw under the jail, kill him, please, kill him now. Like, it's just at a certain point you have to recognize like they just don't agree and they've been conditioned into hating not the worldview necessarily, but who I am as a person. It's always easier to disparage the messenger rather than to tackle the message. Okay? So, I would never will criticize Mao Zedong. Piker said earlier this year in a clip that is currently recirculating, one of the great leaders of this world. Like, I'm fucking literally joking. I criticize him immediately after that clip. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Yes, it's true. I would never. A College Democrats of America executive board member at college in New York told Fox News the group platforming someone like Hasan Piker is antithetical to the party and common sense Democrats are trying to present to the American people before November's midterms. The board member added, "We had a golden opportunity to stand up to Trump's corrupted authoritarian brand of politics, fight against MAGA, affordability crisis, and restore congressional checks on an executive branch that has far overreach in our role in the government. Platforming malignant outside actors such as Piker who have actively worked to cloud our policy platform will only harm our broad electability amongst the average voters." I don't understand how they can call you a lib. There's just like variance. There's variance. There's to varying degrees of different ideology. There's always going to be people to my left that think that I'm not like sufficient in my advocacy for socialism. I'm not. Liberal is an umbrella term. A lot of people are liberals. Liberal is monoculture. Most Republicans are also liberals, and the ones that are post-liberal are just straightforward fascists. Most self-identifying liberals, we believe, are actually far more open-minded to socialization, socialism, as long as they develop class consciousness and get the sufficient political education. But a lot of, and this even extends to self-identifying conservatives that are also a part of the broad, what is this? Mao Zedong died on this day. The Times said he began as an obscure peasant and died one of history's great revolutionary figures. New York Times archives. It's true. Liberalism is all encompassing, okay? Liberalism is all encompassing. In any case, the irony, of course, of what that guy was saying is like, this is dangerous, toxic, whatever. The irony there is the goals are the same. I want there to be a Democratic majority. I want the Democratic Party to win majorities in the House of Representatives and in the Senate as well. So whether they like it or not, we are actually working towards the exact same fucking goal. These guys, on the other hand, of course, that's the short-term goal here, because if we don't actually put any fucking checks or balances against the Trumpism, against the reactionary force in this country, we're fucked. We're not even going to have a real election by 2028. We might not even have a real election by the end of this goddamn year. It's not like the Republicans are shy about it. They keep openly entertaining it. Okay?
This guy's cosplaying the guy responsible for the deadliest famine in human history like it's just a fun bit. This is a guy who went to China and said that he felt no ties to America, and then he went on Cuba on a...
Once again, just so much discourse nowadays is just, I'm unnuanced. I don't give a shit what this person is saying. I've branded this person my ideological opponent, and I have no investment whatsoever in understanding his perspective. I am going to do everything and anything I can to just greatly bastardize a soundbite. It's it. That's it. That's all this is. And it will always be this way going forward. I don't think we can actually fix this unless we fix the literacy crisis. Okay?
Trip, whose funding source has him now being subpoenaed by the Treasury Department. This guy isn't a revolutionary. This guy did not come up from the ranks of the proletariat. This guy's a Nepo baby. He Twitch streamed his way into a bigger platform. Republicans are quietly building their whole midterm strategy around this. They're calling this a hate election. They're pointing to the Democrats' Tea Party-like revolt by progressives. This is proof that the party can't govern, and why young people are not only Richard Nixon maxing, as I know you guys have reported here before on Fox and Friends First, but the young people are actually longing for a return of the days of Joseph McCarthy and wondering, did he go far enough?
I mean, that's insane. Austin Peterson, former libertarian presidential candidate, unironically saying we need to eviscerate the First Amendment. Also, it's pretty funny because he's a former libertarian presidential candidate, and he basically does what I do now, but just to a much lesser impact. He's a fucking podcaster himself, which is precisely the reason why this is, there's a lot of jealousy baked into this fucking commentary, it seems. And no, I'm not a revolutionary, okay? So what's up?
Well, maybe not this guy, anti-Israel.
It's like saying Zohran Mamdani is a revolutionary. He's not. I'm not. We're not revolutionaries. There is no revolution. There could be one day, but currently the material conditions are not ripe for any kind of real revolutionary activity.
Streamer Hasan Piker delivering a far-left speech to college Democrats, all while dressed in Mao Zedong garb. Watch this.
No more to the Democrats who compromise, who conciliate, and who betray us. No more to.
I like that they cut the part where I'm like saying fascist reactionary Trumpism. No more to fascist reactionary Trumpism. They're just like, look, this guy hates the Democrats. He's attacking the Democrats.
The Democrats who will collaborate and cooperate with the fascists, who will fund ICE, who will fund Israel, who will help poison the planet, who will stiff workers and help bosses. We don't need those Democrats anymore.
That was bars, by the way. Straight up, I'll take it. I'm gonna keep repeating that over and over again. That was bars. That's the stump. You know, that's me working my tight five. I'm sorry, I kind of cooked on that. Objectively, aura, objectively cooked. You can fucking cry about it all day, every day, but
we are on boss. We're on bot.
Do you write your own speeches? Yeah. So many of you have actually seen a lot of my speeches. Like I will get help from my friend and my editor at times, Noah Colwyn. But this one, the most of the speech, this was something that I wrote that I was going to do in the rally in Denver. So I wrote this speech for the Denver rally, right? And then I reworked it, retooled it for the College Democrats of America. But this is all me, mostly me. Noah gave the Noah part was basically the beginning. Like there were a couple additions from Noah in the front end of the speech, but the second half is my shit. And I was wondering if you guys could tell that it's like it's my own voice coming out and
Bound, and we will become undeniable.
Forget the Democrats, Austin. Shouldn't that clip be in every?
Yeah, build here, not bomb abroad is my bars. Yes, build schools in your neighborhoods. I use that a lot.
Republican ad between now and the midterms that this Marxist and people like him, you know, the people clapping there in the audience, want to take over your way of life.
Yeah, the Republicans are loving.
I might skip the poison word just because the closer you can get to Hitlerian, if you're a professional misunderstander. What, poisoning the planet? No, dude, that's not fucking Hitlerian at all. I'm not saying immigrants are poison. I'm saying they're poisoning our fucking water supply. They're poisoning our environment. It's a perfectly appropriate word to utilize when you're talking about the ecological disaster that is unfolding all around us, and how much the capital forces of capital have contributed to that death and devastation.
This stuff, Todd. They want to run on this. It kind of reminds me of that Dwight Schrute clip from The Office when he was doing the speech like he was Mussolini. Communism killed 100 million people and all we got was that lousy jacket. You know, this guy's cosplaying the guy responsible for the deadliest famine in human history like it's just a fun bit. This is a guy who went to China and said that he felt no ties to America, and then he went on Cuba on a trip whose funding source has him now being subpoenaed by the Treasury Department. This guy isn't a revolutionary. This guy did not come up from the ranks of the proletariat. This guy's a Nepo baby. He Twitch streamed his way into a bigger.
I love that they're burning the candle on both ends though. He is a grifter. He's not serious. He's not a revolutionary, but also he's obviously trying to foment a communist revolution and very scary. Like, I love this dude saying it at the same time. Like, on the one hand, he's an insincere grifter. All he cares about is making money, blah, blah, blah. But then also he's the most dangerous guy in American politics. We have to make sure he's being funded by foreign governments. Like, we have to put him under the prison. Libertarian, by the way. Where the fuck is your investment in libertarianism? What are you talking about? He's demanding McCarthyite trials to come back.
Platform
at the end of this. Look,
West Hollywood mansion. Now it's worth north of $3.5 million, I think. And he sits behind a gate so the fans and paparazzi can't get to him. His own defense, when people called out his hypocrisy, he said he'd rather be a rich socialist than a broke person defending capitalism. Well, at least he's honest. The revolution lived.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, you got any problems with that? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, again, bars!
Is behind a gated community, Todd.
It is insane, the hypocrisy that
Bars!
he demonstrates. So the big question is, what are Democrats doing about it? Here's at least two of them.
There's some crazy stuff, you know, when we're cheering for the Intifada and DSA, again, they say things like, you know, takeover of key industries, government. That's communism.
But what does that have to do with supporting Hamas? What does it have to do with putting up candidates who say we should have no police, no prisons, we can't deport anybody, even if they commit rape or murder, Israel shouldn't exist? These are terrible ideas.
Austin, we're running late here, so I need a quick answer, but are the Democrats too late? Has the cancer already overrun the body?
Oh, for sure. Axios reported this same week, Todd. Republicans are quietly building their whole midterm strategy around this. They're calling this a hate election. They're pointing to the Democrats' Tea Party-like revolt by progressives.
This is a trap. This is a trap for the establishment Democrats. The Republicans are setting this up for the establishment Democrats to fall into. Okay? It's a trap door. Please be smarter. Okay? All of the momentum, all of the on-the-ground organizing is on our side, okay? The people have tremendous appetite for change. They're sick and tired of business as usual politics. They want this change so bad. That's why they're voting. They're voting against the barrage of attack ads against their left flank. They're voting for people that I never thought they'd be voting for. These are Democrats. These are your voters, okay? They're not alien forces from the outside. They're not Republicans that are casting ballots for Daria Liza in a closed election. These are Democrats that are voting, and these are now DSA candidates that are winning these primaries. Okay? This right here is a fucking trap door. Establishment Democrats are going to fall into it. They're going to be like, see, the Republicans are going to use these DSA candidates as a dangerous and scary force, a malign force in American politics. We have to cut them off immediately. Okay? We have to cut them off immediately. Some cynical operators within the establishment will obviously utilize this, will shake hands with the corrupt forces of fascism in this country in an effort to actively excise their left flank. But if you are if you're a Democrat, if you're self-identifying liberal and you just want to fucking win, just please understand that the Republicans are doing this to dupe you, okay? They're giving an out to the established Democrats to rerun the electability argument once again, to tweak it once again, to say, see, no, these moderate pivots are how you win elections. It's not when you go left. You got to keep going right on a lot of these cultural issues. You got to keep going right on economic issues. That's the only way to defeat Republicans. When we all saw that principled stance that third-way neoliberalism lose to Donald Trump, an incompetent, petty, despotic tyrant, twice, not once, but twice. This is my plea not to the Democratic Party. This is my plea to the liberals, the self-identifying liberal voters who might be in the margins, who might just say, hey, I kind of like this youth, this youthful exuberance being forcibly pushed into the Democratic Party. I like that, but I'm still a little scared. I'm still a little shaky. I'm still a little shaky on this stuff. Is it actually real? Is it going to work? That's who I'm speaking to when I say this. I'm talking to the fucking voters. Okay? Had socialist candidates lost primaries in New York City, Philadelphia, and DC, there would have been a wave of articles about how non-white voters don't vote for socialists. Instead, they won, and we got a wave of articles about how non-white voters don't vote for socialists. It's almost like corporate media reverse engineers narratives to punch left and shore up the status quo regardless of what happens. And if socialists and progressives win on August 4th, they'll just move the goalposts again because they're ideological enforcers, not neutral arbiters of reality. We got dozens of articles on how Bernie endorsing Muslim women is somehow racist, Dan Goldman losing by 30 points to a Jewish guy is evidence of rising anti-Semitism, and a Muslim candidate subject to $50 million in Islamophobic attack ads is actually himself sexist. Reality is irrelevant. Adam Johnson Cooks, once again. This is the media class abiding by their ultimate goal. They are the standard bearers of capitalism. They are the defenders of capitalism. They position themselves as neutral arbiters of reality, but in fact, their primary goal here is to defend the current system, defend the establishment, defend capitalism at the end of the day. Okay? The only difference now is that there is oppositional media, okay? And oppositional media has always played a formative role in developing class consciousness, in developing socialist movements, from the Pravda all the way to, I guess, the fucking modern new media environment where Twitch streamers play somewhat of a role in this process. Let's be real. Without newspapers, there is no socialist movement. There is no communist movement. Without a place where you can get this information that isn't diluted, that isn't oppositional. No, this is not being a trot. Shut up. Okay? No, I'm not talking about the importance of pamphlets. There has never been a successful revolutionary movement without its revolutionary media. Okay? Ground News sponsorship segment? Shut the fuck up.
This is proof that the party can't govern, and why young people are not only Richard Nixon maxing, as I know you guys have reported here before on Fox and Friends First, but the young people are actually longing for a return to the days of Joseph McCarthy and wondering, did he go far enough?
The problem with that article is Republicans are saying, hey, you may not like us, but they're worse. Republicans need to come up with a better strategy than just that between now and November.
Yeah, I'm done apologizing to these nasty little fascists, okay? And if you come in here and you demand that, if you come in here and you say, oh, you gave them an opportunity, there are instances where I do give them an opportunity, by the way. And I'll take my fucking... when I do give them an opportunity, when I say something that's like out of context, or when I say something that is actually fucked up, right? When I'm too hyperbolic or anything like that, I take ownership over that and I apologize for it. This is not one of those moments. This is manufactured outrage when no such manufactured outrage should even exist. Okay? No outrage should exist. The speech stands on its own. Okay. So this is not one of those moments. This is not even like a Rick Scott style incident, right? Where they're doing everything they can to they had a panel on you during the morning of your speech that brought a former Democrat. I know, I watched that already. Yeah. We are done. We are done conceding on oppositional framing. We have to be done with that. It's one of the biggest ways that Democrats consistently take L's. And if we are to be different than Democrats, if we are democratic socialists, we're communists, we will not take on oppositional framing. It's bad. It's just, it's self-defeating. And it's an argument that I have presented to even establishment Democrats, and it's one of their biggest weaknesses. They love taking manufactured hysteria, manufactured outrage from their opposition and then entertain it as though it's a sincere grievance. It's not. Simply put, your boos mean nothing when I've seen what makes you cheer, right? I'm not going to get a lecture from a guy who excitedly supports death and destruction of children. Okay? I'm sorry. I'm not going to hear a lecture from you, Ben Shapiro. It's not happening. I don't care what your perspective is on this matter. Shut the fuck up. Stop saying it's Rick and Morty. Shh. Do you understand?
Well, the dirtbag left and the dirtbag right are basically the same. Hasan Piker, Nick Fuentes, same transgressiveness. Graham Plattner, Andrew Tate, both alleged rapists, same evil, same scam. We're here pointing it out so you can see what's going on both the far right and the radical left. We'll also get to the craven mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani, who seems to think if he just smiles a lot while spewing commie propaganda, people won't notice that he's just spewing commie propaganda. And we're doing a lot of noticing these days. See, in the wake of losing elections, the left is now embracing the photo negative of the right's transgressive evil.
The socialists aren't hiding it anymore? Reload the title. It has a new title? What do you mean? It just says the socialists aren't hiding it.
As in Hasan saying things that are immoral, not anchoring anything you have to say to evidence or fact. It's super duper fun. Hell, it's probably fun to go to a College Democrats of America convention dressed as Chairman Mao. I mean, I assume it's fun for Hasan Piker when he's not putting on his Cartier jewelry. I assume it's fun for him to go dressed as a mass murderer responsible for the death of 40 million people at the College Democratic of America convention, explaining we don't need Democrats anymore and the kulaks must burn.
I didn't say that. What the fuck? The kulaks must burn. Yeah, I said liquidate the kulaks.
But no more to the Democrats who compromise, who conciliate, and who betray us. No more to the...
Also, he's mixing and matching his communist too. He's like, liquidate the kulaks. Did Mao liquidate the kulaks? Were the kulaks, what would be the equivalent? There is an equivalent in China as well, but it's not the kulaks. That's USSR.
Fascist reactionaries, but no more to the Democrats who will collaborate and cooperate with the fascists, who will fund ICE, who will fund Israel, who will help poison the planet, who will stiff workers and help bosses. We don't need those Democrats anymore. In fact, we have a message. We are coming. We are unbossed. We're unbought. We're unbound. And we will become undeniable.
Only blood will grease the wheels of history. Doing the full Mussolini's white shroot routine. Hasan Piker, that guy is welcome in all of the Democratic circles. He is an intellectual elite among the Democrats. Again, the dressing is the Mao is the...
This is my favorite type.
That the Democratic Party is going to become more anti-Israel.
This is my favorite type of argument because there is none, okay? It's just going, isn't this silly? Or, this is actually very scary at the same time. It's like, no commentary on the meat, okay? No commentary on the meat at all. No commentary on the potatoes. How is this not the same rhetorical tool deployed all the time, like by the likes of Laura Ingraham, that just simply repeat the statement with a silly, sarcastic tone without actually addressing any of the arguments? The only articulable fear the Democrats can produce against the left is Israel.
Point. Deciding with Hamas is the point. The DSA is fun and incredibly sinful, and it's enjoyable for the left. They enjoy it because it's the id. It's the thing that you want to say, but you know you shouldn't, but you really want to say it. And when they say it, it's fun. Here's the New York City DSA co-chair, Gustavo Cordillo, on landlords, saying that basically he should decide what happens to those horrible, horrible bourgeois.
The problem we're facing in our housing system is that we talk about tenants and we say they have to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. They have to be responsible financially. But when we look at the landlords, we don't use those same standards.
That's incredible take. What's the problem? An investment is an investment, okay? Is housing a vehicle for speculation? Is it a speculative asset or is it shelter? In the United States of America, we do both. And therefore, the situation is totally warped where we treat, on the one hand, we treat it as an investment vehicle, but also on the other hand, we will never allow that investment vehicle to falter. We'll never allow that investment vehicle to go down in value, right? That's the problem. If you're making a gamble, if it's a bet at the end of the day, sometimes we need to allow that bet to fail, especially if this means more people will get shelter. Okay? It's that simple. And that's all he's saying. He's saying we tell people to pick themselves up by their bootstraps. Well, when it comes to making your money off of holding on to housing, holding on the property, we never allow for policies that will potentially lower their profit margins. That makes no sense. That is unironically the reason why there's this major housing crisis in this country. This is not a controversial opinion. As a matter of fact, if you were to talk to the average person, the average working class individual, or even the upper middle class person in the country right now, and you were to be like, hey, how do you feel about home values going down a little bit, but then you get to have a home? Everyone would agree with that. At the end of the day, we're talking about shelter for these people, okay? For most people, for the average person, a home is shelter, okay? In the United States of America, it's also your nest egg. It's also your retirement. It's upwards mobility. It's generational wealth. That's what's so frustrating about it. Our understanding of housing in the Western world is totally fucking distorted. It's not an accident that in English-speaking countries, especially, this mentality persists, and that's the reason why English-speaking countries all around the world have some of the worst housing policies and some of the worst homelessness crises. There was a Forbes report that just recently came out that showed like median wealth versus average wealth in these countries, and it showed the disparity between countries that had a housing crisis where their GDP increase or their overall wealth, the wealth of the country, was entirely due to housing inflation. Housing inflation, the price of housing going up. Okay? It's unbearable. That's why we fucking say, America is a third world country with a Gucci belt on. So many of these places, like England is another great example. Canada is another great example of this. The United States of America is somewhat of a decent example of this, even though it's such a vast country. There's obviously numerous housing markets within the country. There's numerous different housing markets within the country where some are a little bit more, adjustable. Australia is another one as well, where you look at the overall, the entirety of the Anglosphere. When you look at the overall wealth in the Anglosphere, you see there's a lot of value, but you don't understand the full picture. If there's so much value, why are there so many homeless people? If there's so much value, if there's so much wealth, why is there so much endless suffering? Okay? Especially in Western liberal democracies, Western liberal capitalist democracies. Why? That's because all of the value is trapped in the hands of boomers, and all of the value is trapped in the housing. The value is not real. It's not real wealth. It's not wealth in the way that you understand it. For the longest time, okay, before finance capitalism became the only version of capitalism in the global marketplace, especially in Western liberal capitalist democracies, the idea was simple. You invent something, you have a little bit of upfront capital, you invent something that's new, or you find a more efficient mode of production, and you're in a competitive market and you rise above everybody else. This is the efficiency of the market. And you generated something, you created something. There was an industrial base that was built in this country. Okay? And that's how wealth grew. And in the process of growing wealth, although there was a lot of consolidation at the top, there was an instance where rising tides were, in some ways, raising other boats as well. Okay? Of course, it was never as equitable as it was supposed to be. Obviously, that's the problem. That's the problem within capitalism, where all of the productive output, all of the productivity that you are putting in to generating value was staying still at the top. But then something changed. Okay? This is fucking ahistorical. Okay. I'm oversimplifying it. Can I please explain to you what the difference is between, I guess, the periods of time in American history in the 50s and 60s, 70s onward, and then the accelerated version of events? It's already wrong. Okay, you know what? You have the floor. You explain it. You explain why so much wealth growth has been seen in the Western world especially, and yet the bottom fell out for the average worker. Yeah, okay, smart guy, you take a crack at it. When did the wealth get to the bottom? It never did. I'm not saying it got to the bottom. I'm simply stating that when there was more redistributive policies, and when there was an industrial base, some of that value that was being generated, unlike now, because all of the value comes from moving numbers around as opposed to like actually building shit, in comparison to the current accelerated version of finance capitalism, things were objectively better. It still wasn't a perfect system. It still wasn't a good system. Okay. But in comparison to the situation now, if you want to understand like why there was at least like a self-identifying working class, a labor movement, and that people could simply work one job and have not one, but sometimes two fucking families. Okay. Like there is no reality. There is no reality now where one guy with one job can have not only one family, but a second secret family on the fucking side. Okay. You have households where both of the parents are working, and on top of their regular job, in order to make ends meet, they have to take gig economy jobs as well. What's the difference? Modern day conditions are the predictable outcome of capitalism. It was capitalism back then, and this is capitalism evolving into a more honest version of capitalism, a more indecent version from your perspective, but this is just still capitalism. I'm not even making the distinction like, oh, this is corporatism. versus capitalism. Real capitalism has never been tried. I'm not saying this is real capitalism. I'm simply explaining to you that the contradictions have always existed, but it's getting far worse now. And we haven't even peeked behind the curtain of what it will look like with artificial intelligence, where value keeps going up, where the market is still performing well, and yet people are losing their jobs. Largest share of GDP by labor was 1960s to early 1970s, with high union density and the advent of the modern welfare state. It also happened to be a period in time where America still had some version of central planning in the aftermath, the war economy. Okay? Yeah, Rand income study from 1975 to 2018. Bottom 90% had 67% of share of income in 1975 and 50% share in 2018. It's gotten even worse. It's gotten so much worse. But that's also just income. A lot of this wealth is no longer created through income. The overwhelming majority of wealth for the top has nothing to do with income at all. Jeff Bezos gets paid $75,000 a year, right? Obviously. It's in assets. It's in wealth. It's in the stock market. That's what I'm talking about. That's the major difference nowadays. It's in investments. In any case, that is the reason why this system is collapsing. That's the reason why contradictions are worsening. Ownership, not income now. Only way Elon Musk could become a trillionaire. Exactly. We'll talk about, when we get to situation monitoring, we'll talk about all this stuff. But in any case, we'll do Francesca Hong in a second. I just wanted to get back to this dumbass who yesterday came out and said, my red line is campaigning with garbage like Hasan Piker. I'm going to have to quit the Democratic Party. And here he is doubling down with Maria Bartiromo once again.
If that becomes official, even Jewish kinds of organizations like J Street are doing events with people like Hasan Piker. Hasan Piker. I mean, how can you embrace people like that? That Hamas is 1,000% better than Israel. You know, if we became the kind of party that would embrace someone like Hasan Piker, you know, maybe my party doesn't want like a reasonable, common sense kind of Democrat that reminds people that standing with Israel, that at least used to be part of our core values. And one of the reasons why I've been proud to be a Democrat.
That's right. Senator.
Yeah, he's just saying straight up. He's entertaining leaving the Democratic Party, which he already left spiritually a long time ago. Let's be real. But now he's looking for an out, and I guess he's decided the out is me. Now, the real question here is, if you were to ask the average Democrat, is John Fetterman closer to your understanding of what the Democratic Party should represent, or is it someone like myself? I suspect that if you look at the trend lines on Israel, most Democrats would obviously be on my side of the argument rather than John Fetterman's. So that's it. John Fetterman doubles down on his threat to leave the Democratic Party because of Hasan Piker. Yeah. John Fetterman has a minus 40% approval rating among Democrats in Pennsylvania. Now, what's really interesting about this, by the way, what's really interesting about what John Fetterman is saying is that John Fetterman is the least popular Democrat in the country. He's a Dino, Democrat in name only. Okay? And what I find particularly strange about this is what he's saying there is not dissimilar to what you hear from Neera Tanden, what you hear from Shannon Watts, what you hear from a lot of these establishment Democrat-aligned spokespeople for the center of power in the party. It is identical, almost verbatim, bar for bar. And that's what's so strange about this, where those people would never openly entertain John Fetterman as a good force in the Democratic Party. They don't come after AOC as hard and as vociferously as well because they're worried that AOC is objectively a popular figure in the party. But they share that same exact resentment. They share the same exact resentment that John Fetterman has. They hate it. And yeah, it's interesting. It's funny that Paul Singer, Jan Koum, and Neera Tanden are the three most prominent supporters of Haley Stevens. Singer and Koum are outspoken supporters of Trump, while Tanden publicly claims to be against Trump, but actively spends all of her time fighting other Democrats and teaming up with Trump mega donors to do it. Democrats won't have a coherent party as long as a huge chunk of it is funded by Republicans. I brought this up as well because Eli Clifton reported on this, senior advisor at Quincy Institute. He had a report on this. He said two of Trump and GOP's biggest donors, Paul Singer and Jan Koum, are the largest individual donors to the super PAC backing Haley Stevens over Abdul El-Sayed in the Democratic Senate primary in Michigan. Why is this important? Well, it's important because I brought this point up as well. Why are two major MAGA donors backing Stevens, and what is the guarantee they continue funding her against Mike Rogers and the general? Can she perform at all without AIPAC money? Why is mainstream media too busy talking about Abdul's podcast appearances instead of this in the electability calculus? I know the answers to these questions, but, you know, still interesting to see mainstream Democrats hit these fucking lines. Last but not least, Jeremy Ben-Ami had a take on this as well, and then we'll get to the Marco Rubio situation. But here is more synchronicity on the pro-Israel camp. John Yoo attacking UC Berkeley law professor, famous pro-torture professor, shitting on Zohran Mamdani.
After the 9/11 attacks, the Bush administration, and I was an official of the Justice Department, we participated with Congress to pass a law that prohibits any official in the United States from cooperating with the ICC. So what Mayor Mamdani is calling on is for the officials of New York City, including himself, to violate federal law. So in the end, it's not Netanyahu who should be arrested and investigated. I'm not trying to exaggerate here. The mayor is violating the American Servicemen Protections Act passed in 2002, and the Justice Department should be investigating him. And the president, under that law, is authorized to use all necessary means to prevent any American or ally from being handed over to that court. So if Mayor Mamdani wants to spend a lot of time dealing with FBI agents and Justice Department investigators, well, he just started that. He just launched that whole process for himself and the residents of New York City.
But he's a savvy guy, right? You don't get elected mayor of the biggest city in the world if you're a dummy. So what is this? It's just some kind of a political catcall for him?
Yeah, I don't know if I can add more than what you've heard from other political analysts and guests who've said that Mayor Mamdani is appealing to this large sort of socialist-friendly base of young people in New York City who are becoming increasingly, I'm afraid, anti-Semitic and anti-Israel. But the question is he acting consistent with the law of the United States? And he is not, and he should be investigated by the Justice Department, by the Trump administration because of that.
That's crazy. This guy's pivotal achievement is literally sanctioning torture, by the way. Like, in a just world, he would be going to prison, ironically enough. But, of course, we do not live in a just world. His biggest accomplishment, John Hughes biggest accomplishment as a former Deputy Assistant Attorney General is sanctioning torture during the war, the global war on terror. Isn't that wild? Yeah, he wrote the torture memo, famously.
Period. After the 9.
Man who deserves to be on trial at The Hague, it's illegal to actually send criminals to The Hague. Yeah, of course he would say that. He's a fucking straight up war criminal. So yeah, this morning I had some unfortunate news. Let's start there. Wait, hold on. Sorry. Actually, before I get to the torture, I just got through the torture thing. Before I get to the State Department issue, there was one other thing I wanted to cover. To wrap up the college Democrats thing, here's Jeremy Ben-Ami, who's been getting yelled at quite a bit because J Street U, which is the university version of J Street, co-sponsored the College Democrats of America convention. And then Jewish Insider went to Jeremy Ben-Ami and were like, why the fuck did you sponsor this? Hasan is a terrorist, blah, blah, blah. He's an anti-Israel terrorist, all this stuff, right? And then I guess Jeremy Ben-Ami had a opinion on this. He wanted to release an effort post on this. It says, since it was announced that Hasan Piker would be speaking, some have sought to portray our participation as an endorsement of his views. That is simply false. J Street disagrees with much of what Hasan Piker says and with the way he says it. We won't hesitate to say so. But we also reject the notion that the right answer to his invitation is to abandon the very spaces where the next generation of Democratic leaders is debating these issues. Our mission is not to preach to the converted. It is to ensure that a pro-Israel, pro-peace voice is heard wherever the future of American politics is being shaped. If we leave those conversations to others, we shouldn't be surprised when the loudest and most polarizing voices dominate them. Let's also dispense with the misinformation. J Street U was one of the many conference sponsors. Our sponsorship amounted to a couple $1,000s for an exhibit table. We had no role in choosing speakers, no approval over the program, and no say in who was invited to address the conference. Suggesting otherwise is either uninformed or intentionally misleading. Some of our critics don't object to this particular conference. They object to J Street. They've spent years trying to convince people that there is no room in American Jewish life or democratic politics for a pro-Israel movement that also insists on Palestinian rights, opposes the occupation, and believes diplomacy is stronger than perpetual war. They won't succeed. Too many people want young Americans to believe there are only two choices: defend every action of the Israeli government or reject Israel altogether. That is a false choice, and it is one J Street was founded to reject. We will continue to show up. We will continue to engage. We will continue making the case for a future in which Israelis and Palestinians can both live in freedom, security, and peace, and we won't be intimidated into surrendering that conversation to voices we disagree with or to critics who would rather see us stay home. Search fucking bullshit. There's no fucking thing as being pro-Israel, pro-peace. Yeah, I obviously have vehement disagreements with J Street, and they have disagreements with me, right? But at the very least, they understand the importance of not demanding deplatforming for someone with my worldview, with my policies, with my opinion on Israel, because they understand that the